So Goblin Slayer Season 2 is officially here. Episode 1 just dropped. We have Lion Films taking over from White Fox, who handled the movie as well as Season 1. And overall, I leave satisfied. I recently watched both Season 1 and the movie over the past week, and I loved it. I loved the almost D&D style mechanics, the idea that it wasn't just some angry man hunting down goblins. He was an angry man, and he was hunting down goblins, but there's actually a lot of strategy. There was a lot of preparation. It felt like playing D&D, and similar to a Grimgar Fantasy and Ash, where even the lower level monsters can be so brutal and just savage. And it was really interesting watching a man slowly but surely open up. Didn't massively flip a switch and become some very emotional character, but there was a character journey there with a fun supporting cast. So walking into Season 2, I just wanted to continue seeing that, and that's pretty much what I'm getting so far. We get introduced to Goblin Slayer's brother, or at least that's how Elf is pretty much interpreting it, because anyone who's screaming about, I'm gonna hunt goblins, the natural assumption is, that's gotta be your relative, right? Is this your son? Like, who the hell knows, right? The kid definitely pissed me off, but these are the types of characters that do work rather well in a show, because either they get killed off because they are so stupid, but most likely what's going to happen, at least my gut is saying, similar to how the beginning of Season 1 was Goblin Slayer saving our girl, I think now that she's pretty much his mentor sort of a thing, she might be able to do and kind of repay the favor sort of a thing. But either way, this was a very fun return, and I'm eager to see more. Now, we do have a full live reaction to both this episode, Season 1, the movie. We got all that Goblin Slayer over on my Patreon, so if you would like to see those, they're over there if you're interested. Now, first things first, I think the most important thing to mention is the opening, because that was fire. Season 1's opening, I mean, the best way to describe it was that it didn't feel like a traditional anime opening. Season 2 opening, exact same thing. Animation, fire. A lot of fun events. Couple of moments where I'm like, is that our boy? Look at that red eye. Like, why is he dressed like that? I don't know, but I need to see where they're going with this. If an opening is supposed to, get you excited, maybe get you hyped up for an episode, the opening absolutely did that. It was fantastic. The only thing that was a bit of a bummer was the fact that, honestly, I can't say this without it sounding bad. But if you didn't notice, especially if you've rewatched Season 1 recently, both of the busty characters got a bit of a downgrade. They are at least half the size that they were in the previous season. And in general, the show does look different now that there is a new studio involved. Now, it does still look like Goblin Slayer, but at the end of the day, there is a lot of moments as someone who recently watched both Season 1 and the movie, where I was like, that does look different. The faces, they look like them, but they're just off. They're not exactly what I'm used to. Now, some people will say, I didn't notice it. Some people will say, I didn't mind it. And some people might be absolutely pissed off. There's going to be a wide variety of opinions. But as someone who did just recently watch both the movie and Season 1, it did look different. It did take a bit of an adjustment. Did it ruin anything? No, but it does take a bit of an adjustment. That's all I'm saying here. But in general, though, this did just feel like more Goblin Slayer, right? Because even the little moments, even if we didn't get to see action this week, sure, they take on a dozen Goblin Slaying quests, but they do a cut and we see them battered, bruised, and basically ready for bed. But what I like is the potion moment. Now, these are the moments that really were my favorite points in Season 1. The idea of how Goblin Slayer isn't someone who just draws a sword, slashes around, makes a couple of wisecracks, and moves on to the next. He's always preparing. Sometimes his plans take days to come through, like the idea of the flower and the big explosion that he does in Season 1. But in this case, it's the idea of how he buys, probably a bit more than a dozen potions, all things considered, but when you look at them, they all look the same. And something that I really like, which this never really gets touched upon, the fact that when you have a video game or a show where everything looks the same, the characters just grab things. Like, it's all in one bag, and you never really explain why they know exactly where things are. Because even if you place, okay, healing potion on the left, paralysis potion on the right, like in the franticness of a battle, you're gonna make mistakes. So not only does he perfectly place potions in different locations in his bag, he also ties like ropes in ways that it will help understand and so be able to pick them apart in the middle of a life or death moment. Those little things are not specifically what make Goblin Slayer amazing. Like, if you remove the potion moment, is the episode significantly worse? No. But when you combine the numerous elements that make Goblin Slayer such an intelligent character when it comes to hunting monsters and how he deals with goblins and his party, that is what I really enjoy about it, is that there's an element of realism, and whether it's the brutality of this world, the way goblins operate, to just the way he acts as a character, I really enjoy that. And in general, this was kind of just about establishing the next arc, and that is this kid, who probably suffered some very bad things at the hands of a goblin. I mean, I don't really see otherwise why he's so angry at goblins, unless he just is like, you know what, I see goblins as a threat, because Goblin Slayer sees goblins as a threat, not only just for what can happen to villages, but because of how fast they spawn, they could become a plague that just, it's worse than any demon lord, right? So it could just be that kid's book smart, he studies a lot, and he knows the threat that's coming. But given that I feel like there's a lot of similarities with him and Goblin Slayer, I wouldn't be surprised if there's trauma. So where we're currently standing is we have an arrogant kid who's pissing off the entire guild. Sounds familiar, right? Especially with Season 1. Most of the guild hated Goblin Slayer. Sure, the fresh blood in the guild kind of thinks he's a weirdo again because he's hunting goblins, but after the end of Season 1, with the guild kind of working together, they started to respect him a lot more. But this very much feels like the beginning of Season 1 again, just with a lot more inexperience of a person, but very well, when Goblin Slayer started out, that could have been him, just someone who was yelling a lot, and I think we're kind of seeing the reflection of his past in a lot of ways, just now in the present, and that can make for a very compelling arc. Like, some people legitimately just only talk about Goblin Slayer when there's a crazy action scene, or there's an edgy moment, or there's this or that. But the thing that, I mean, especially if you watched my video covering Season 1 of the movie, is that the thing that was really exciting to me was watching how strategic Goblin Slayer was, how it actually explored a world in a D&D style fashion with like that Grimgar kind of twist. And overall, I see no difference with what we're going to get here. They're clearly setting up a very interesting story arc. It's infuriating because the kid does piss you off, he does get under your skin, but we can also tell that that's most likely how Goblin Slayer was when he was a lot younger, especially after losing everything, and whether or not this kid has suffered quite as much as him, or he just, for some reason, is like this. Either way, it's going to be interesting seeing a character like this probably have to open up and evolve, and if not, well, he'll probably end up dead, right? That's just the nature of this world. If you rush into things, if you try to kill a goblin, or you say, you know what, rats are easy and we just don't really consider them all that difficult, I mean, you're gonna get your leg cut off, if not more. And that is the brutality of this world. That's why we love this world, and all I can say is it's good to be back. Music's fire, voice actors still knocking it out of the park. Yeah, there's a bit of adjustment with some slight deviations with character designs. Some people may not notice them, like I said, but trust me, if you go back and watch any episode in Season 1 and go watch this episode, you will notice the difference. But it is a different studio. I'm just glad we got more Goblin Slayer. I will definitely take a different character design approach to not having Season 2 at all, and all I'm saying is one of my most anticipated, delivered the first episode, and I am dying to see where they go from here. Thoughts and feelings yourself though down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here. Of course, ring that bell so you can get notified when I upload more Goblin Slayer to the channel. Like I mentioned, we have a full live reaction to everything Goblin Slayer over on my Patreon, and hey, while you're there, you can also get a video shout out. So today we have Bennett Reiser, Michael Latham, Dautis Grunt, Sleeping Knight, Galleon, and Yuzix. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.